Rodney Stark's stuff on more, not so much his stuff on early Christianity, but more his work on modern religious groups and how they grow and survive and what makes for a successful religious movement. Sort of theoretical model I draw upon. You know, he emphasizes that successful religious movements must make themselves meaningful to their societies, and so they have to speak meaningfully to their particular cultural situation, and not seem so totally odd like something from the planet Mars. On the other hand, they have to have a certain level of distinctiveness to make a difference between being in the group and out the group. Groups that are too much like their culture don't grow, and groups that are so totally odd that they are impossible to imagine joining them don't grow. They have to maintain a balance. And so I've taken that as a sort of model and say, yes, yes, and this is probably, you know, and we know that early Christianity grew and succeeded. So it probably fits this model. And what I do is to say, let's look at ways in which early Christianity, in this particular book, ways in which early Christianity was countercultural or dissonant. One of the practices that is well known in the Roman period is infant abandonment, infant exposure. It was a sort of rough and ready means, it appears, of child birth control, you know, or child selection. The famous letter from the Roman soldier home to his wife, expressing great affection for her and for his family and for their child, and then says, by the way, you should now, you know, anytime now we'll be giving birth to another child. If it is a boy, name it Marcus. If it is a girl, expose it. And then goes on to profess undying affection for her. So the guy's not a monster. He's fully capable of feelings and family attachments and deep affection. But he has no hesitation in basically saying, it's the girl, we don't want it, toss it away. So I make the point that, you know, child exposure, as it's called, or the casting away of unwanted infants was such a common practice that even, you know, affectionate, loving, caring people like that thought nothing of it. The Christians are dead against that, totally against it, and condemn it as in lists of vices that they put idolatry and fornication and murder and child abandonment and so on. It's one of the big handful of things that they utterly condemn. Now there again, by the way, of course, that stance they inherit from the Jewish tradition as well. So at the level of ideas, once again, there's a great deal of connection between early Christianity on some of these matters and the larger Jewish context. The difference is the nature of the social project. Jews did not seek to enforce their behavioral standards on pagans. It was for Jews to keep these things. And so again, it was connected with their ethnic customs. Early Christians, because they are recruiting trans-ethnically and transculturally, and are requiring these standards of every adherent, are making a very different kind of social impact, social project, and much more disturbing, therefore. One of the things that's interesting, too, is the way in which early Christianity takes, it seems to me at the risk of some simplification, takes the sexual behavior standards that people tended to expect of a proper married woman. You know, a proper matron should be chaste, should keep herself only to her husband, should, you know, not play around and so on. The early Christian, but the notion was, but of course the husband is free to do whatever he wants in the larger setting. So wives are supposed to behave in a very chaste manner, but husbands can have sex with slave girls, with prostitutes, with boys, with whoever they want. And indeed in organized male drinking parties, that was part of what went on. And it was not considered anything shameful or anything of that nature. Early Christianity takes basically the ethical standards that a lot of people expected of proper married women and said husbands and males have to live by the same standard. So there's a sense in which they markedly go against the Roman era double standard and basically say that males are expected to be as chaste as married women were expected to be. There again, you see similarities between some of the sentiments expressed, in this case, by some Roman philosophers. Musonius Rufus, for example, I discuss, a Stoic philosopher of the period. And he has very similar sort of sentiments. He too thinks of somewhat, you know, men should live chastely as if they expect their wives to. They should also. He also is critical of child abandonment, thinking that it's a very wrong kind of thing, and even says, you know, the gods will not be pleased with this. The point I make there, though, is that, again, at the level of ideas, you see a certain similarity. But Musonius never sought to disseminate his ideas or to try to promote their observance beyond the circle of students who gathered around him for learning philosophy. So a little seminar group of, dedicated students who spent 2 or 3 years learning how to think like a Stoic was his project. Early Christianity takes it to the streets. They are converting people of all societal levels, men, women, freed slaves, and as many different ranks as possible, and are enforcing this kind of behavior upon adherents from the point of baptism onward. So it's a very different social project that's at work here, though at the level of ideas, a certain similarity. But as historians, I point out, we don't simply deal in the realm of ideas. We're interested in social impact and social change. And there, I think, is where early Christianity is distinctive.